Hello everybody. If you want to read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short story 417, The Vanishing Signal. Intermediate. At precisely 11 p.m, the small town of Grimley experienced an event it would never forget. The power cut plunged the town into darkness, leaving only the faint glow of the moon to guide its residents. On the edge of town, in a house that had seen better days, Mia Parker stood by her living room window. Mia was a 29-year-old journalist known for her determination and curiosity. Tonight, however, she was simply tired. The day had been long, and her editor had rejected her latest article. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, illuminating the room briefly. She hesitated before picking it up. It wasn't a notification from her social media or her friends. Instead, there was a peculiar message. Signal lost. Beware the silence. Mia frowned. She didn't recall subscribing to any cryptic newsletters. She tried calling her friend Jenna, but there was no dial tone. Strange. Her mobile data wouldn't connect either. Assuming the power cut had somehow disrupted the local network, she shrugged it off and headed back to bed. Hours later, Mia woke abruptly. It wasn't the usual noises that stirred her, but complete silence. There were no distant sounds of cars, no barking dogs, not even the rustling of leaves outside. It was as if the world had hit a mute button. She checked her phone again, and the screen lit up with another odd message. Do not leave. Trust no one. Her heartbeat quickened as she tried to rationalize the message. It had to be a prank, she thought. She grabbed a flashlight and headed downstairs, determined to make sense of the situation. As she reached the kitchen, she noticed something out of place. A set of muddy footprints leading from her back door to the middle of the room. They stopped abruptly. Her hand shook as she dialed 999, but the call wouldn't connect. Suddenly, her flashlight flickered and went out, leaving her in darkness again. She remembered the box of matches in the drawer and lit a candle, the small flame barely illuminating the room, but it gave her some comfort. "Mia!" a low voice whispered. She froze, her grip tightening on the candle holder. "Who's there?" she stammered. There was no response, only the oppressive silence. She backed into the hallway and grabbed an umbrella for protection. Mia was no stranger to fear. Her job often required her to confront it, but this was different. This wasn't an angry interview subject or a dangerous protest. This felt otherworldly. The footprints were gone when she returned to the kitchen. In their place was another message scrawled in ash on the counter. Follow the silence. Against her better judgment, she decided to step outside. The streets were empty, bathed in an eerie blue glow from the moon. Her neighbours' houses were dark, and she saw no sign of life. As she walked, she noticed that the air felt heavy, as though it were pressing against her. She reached the town's old clock tower, a structure that had stood abandoned for years. Its doors were ajar, as if inviting her in. Mia hesitated, but remembered the message. Follow the silence. She stepped inside. The interior was cold and the air smelled of mildew. The silence was deafening, almost painful. She climbed the winding staircase, her footsteps echoing faintly. When she reached the top, she found a small room with walls covered in strange symbols. In the center was a table, and on it sat an old radio. It was humming softly. Mia approached it cautiously and turned the dial. Static filled the room, but beneath it she could hear faint voices. "Mia Parker," they said in unison. She dropped the radio and backed away. How did it know her name? The static grew louder and the symbols on the walls began to glow. The room felt like it was spinning, and Mia struggled to stay on her feet. The voices spoke again, this time clearer. "The signal was never lost. It was taken." Before she could react, a blinding light enveloped the room. Mia screamed, and then there was nothing. no light, no sound, no Mia. The next morning the power returned to Grimley. The townspeople went about their day, unaware of what had happened during the blackout. Mia's house stood as it was, her belongings untouched, but Mia was gone. All that remained was her phone, still on the coffee table. A new message glowed on the screen. Signal restored, for now. Vocabulary notes. Plunged. Definition. To suddenly bring into a particular state, usually one involving a sudden drop or movement downward. Example. The power cut plunged the town into darkness. Similar words. Dipped, descended, fell, divided. Explanation. In this context, plunged conveys the sudden incompleteness of the town becoming dark, highlighting the abrupt change. Cryptic. Definition. Having a meaning that is mysterious or obscure. Example. Instead, there was a peculiar message. Signal lost. Beware the silence. Similar words. Mysterious, puzzling, enigmatic, vague. Explanation. Here, cryptic emphasizes the strange and mysterious nature of the message, which adds to the suspense. Frowned. Definition. To furrow one's brows in expression of disapproval, displeasure, or concentration. Example. Mia frowned. She didn't recall subscribing to any cryptic newsletters. Similar words. Scowled, grimaced, glowered. Explanation. Frowned indicates Mia's reaction to the unexpected message, signaling her unease and confusion. Hesitated. Definition. To pause briefly, often due to uncertainty or nervousness. Example. She hesitated before picking it up. Similar words. Paused, faltered, delayed, wavered. Explanation. This word highlights Mia's cautious behavior when faced with something strange. Abruptly. Definition. Suddenly and without warning. Example. They stopped abruptly. Similar words. Suddenly, sharply, unexpectedly, immediately. Explanation. Abruptly emphasizes the unexpected and startling nature of the footprint's ending. Deafening. Definition. Extremely loud or, in this case, overwhelmingly silent. Example. The silence was deafening, almost painful. Similar words. Overwhelming, intense, profound, in terms of silence. Explanation. Used metaphorically here, deafening describes the oppressive quality of complete silence. Eerie. Definition. Strange and frightening. Example. The streets were empty, bathed in an eerie blue glow from the moon. Similar words. Spooky, haunting, unsettling, ghostly. Explanation. The word eerie creates an atmosphere of unease and suspense, fitting for a thriller. Cautiously. Definition. With care, avoiding potential danger or trouble. Example. Mia approached it cautiously and turned the dial. Similar words. Carefully, warily, prudently, vigilantly. Explanation. Cautiously reflects Mia's apprehension and sense of self-preservation as she investigates. Blinding. Definition. Extremely bright, overwhelming to the sight. Example. Before she could react, a blinding light enveloped the room. Similar words. Dazzling, glaring, brilliant. Explanation. The word blinding conveys the intensity of the light, making the moment vivid and dramatic. Oppressive. Definition. Weighing heavily on the mind or senses. Stifling. Example. The air felt heavy as though it were pressing against her. Similar words. Stifling, suffocating, overwhelming, burdensome. Explanation. In this context, oppressive describes the unsettling atmosphere, adding to the tension of the scene. Story written by ChatGPT 4.0 AI. Image created by Designer AI. To read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you.